What's going on, Packers Nation? Welcome back to another video of Packers Latest. I am your host, Taylor Bretl, keeping you up to date on the latest news of the Green and Gold Green Bay Packers. A happy Saturday to all of you watching out there. We are just one day away from maybe a Super Bowl preview. Maybe that's an overstep, but nonetheless, a matchup between the 9-3-1 Green Bay Packers against the 11-2 Denver Broncos, who hold a 10-game winning streak. It's a big one. It's an important one. If you want to be up to date on the latest news, feel free to subscribe, leave a like, turn on a notification bell, leave a comment. If you're a fan of the Packers, if you're a fan of the Broncos, tuning into these videos so you know what to expect from this Green Bay team on Sunday, I welcome all of you. We're starting off this video talking about this Broncos defense against tight ends. This was something when I wanted to get into the nitty-gritty of these box scores, looking at both teams, because, man, they sit neck and neck in so many categories. This is a X factor possibly for Luke Musgrave and this tight end room that the Packers could use to their advantage on Sunday. I'm looking at this. It could be a big game for Luke Musgrave if these trends continue. Denver, they've allowed big games to tight ends. But you look at it on the other side, they're on a 10-game winning streak, so they have been allowed to give up these big games to tight ends and still come away with a win. Luke Musgrave's been rather quiet this season. I mean, Tucker Kraft was the guy most of the season. Got hurt in that game against the Carolina Panthers, and it has been Luke Musgrave taking over the starting role since. On the season, Musgrave, he has played in all 13 games, just 17 catches on 22 targets for 162 yards, still yet to sniff the end zone. Since that Panthers game, here his stats, this actually includes the Panthers game, I should say, which is the one that Tucker Kraft unfortunately went down in for the season. Musgrave in those 6 games since, 11 catches on 15 targets for 108 yards. So definitely getting a little bit more involved than when he was the backup, but the tight end room has really shut down overall since. But with these trends from this Denver Broncos defense, maybe this is an opportunity for Musgrave to get back on his feet. We're looking at this week by week for Denver over the past 5 weeks. Here are the stats that they've allowed to tight ends. Their most recent game in their win against the Raiders, they allowed 4 catches for 46 yards and a touchdown to Brock Bowers. Bowers, one of the best tight ends in the NFL. So honestly, 4 catches for 46 yards and that touchdown, not the worst stat line that someone like Bowers could get in a game, you should say. They shut him down rather well, but he was still able to find the end zone. You go a week before that when the Broncos played the Commanders. Zach Ertz was the Commanders' leading receiver in that game with 10 catches, which is a season high, and he had 106 yards, which was also a season high, getting targeted a total of 13 times. They had a bye week between them, and then when you go to the Chiefs in Week 11, you see Travis Kelce was the leading receiver for the Chiefs in that game. He had 9 catches, which was a season high, for 91 yards and a touchdown. That was on 13 total targets. Go a week prior to that, that's when they played the Raiders for the first time this season. They shut Bowers down very well, just 1 catch for 31 yards, but it did find the end zone. And you go 1 week before that one to Week 9, which was the start of this 5-game streak where these tight ends have really started to shine through against Denver. And you look at Dalton Schultz, who was the leading receiver for the Texans in that game. He had 6 catches for 77 yards on 8 targets. So an interesting thing to note here, over these past 5 games, the leading receiver for the team has been the tight end in 3 of those 5. The 2 games where it wasn't the tight end was against the Raiders when it was Brock Bowers, but Bowers in both of those games finding the end zone despite not being the top receiver. So definitely something interesting to note. Who knows if this trend will continue against Green Bay. Maybe if Tucker Kraft was in there with the type of season he's having, you could expect it. Luke Musgrave still not really getting involved in the passing game, but has still played a big role in Kraft's absence and will have a continuous big role with Kraft officially out for the entire season. And we've seen Musgrave be the guy before. I mean, 2023, he was the guy ahead of Kraft, and then Musgrave was dealing with injuries himself. That elevated Kraft above him, and Kraft had held that role until his injury. So who knows the type of game Musgrave could have? Could he get his first touchdown of the season, ending up with just 1 catch on the game and a touchdown like Bowers? Maybe. Could you have a Zach Ertz type game where you get 10 catches? That would definitely be insane for the season that Musgrave's having with only 17 catches in 13 games. But you never know. Just thought this was something interesting to touch on. We're going to get into what I think is the biggest key of the game. Obviously, the tight end play for Green Bay could be a big one, but in my opinion, this is the key to the game, honestly, for both teams when you look at this on both sides, and it's getting to the quarterback. Going to start off with the Packers on this one and definitely flip it over to the Broncos. Actually, let's just go stat, but let's go to each category and where each team sits, because honestly, these are pretty neck and neck stats. So definitely the key to the victory is just getting to the quarterback for both teams overall. You go to the Broncos in the sacks department, they lead the NFL with 55 team sacks. That is the most in the NFL by 7. The Falcons have 48, but they've also played one more game. The team in third are the Cleveland Browns, who have played the same amount of games as the Broncos, and they have 44. So the Broncos leading the next closest team by 11, if you count the same amount of games played. Pretty drastic there. The Packers just 33 sacks on the season. That's tied for 11th in the NFL with the Minnesota Vikings. You go to QB knockdowns when a quarterback gets hit after he's released the ball. So, still getting to the quarterback, not on time, but shows how close they are to racking up even more sacks. The Packers have 47 quarterback knockdowns, which is tied with the Seattle Seahawks for the 4th most in the NFL. And the Broncos with 52 quarterback knockdowns, which is 2nd in the NFL, trailing the Dallas Cowboys, who sit in 1st. So definitely in the sacks department, the Broncos have a huge lead. In the quarterback knockdown department, these two teams are pretty close. So you got to look at it. That's both defensive sides, but how do the offensive lines on both of these teams stand? You go to Green Bay. They've allowed just 18 sacks in these 13 games, which is 1.38 sacks per game, which is the 3rd best mark in the NFL. That's pretty good, but does Green Bay lead that category? No, they're 3rd. Who's in 1st? The Denver Broncos, tied with the Los Angeles Rams, who hold the 1 seed over the Green Bay Packers. So you look at that, you look if an offensive line plays well, your team's playing well. Broncos, best record in the AFC. They lead this category along with the Rams, who have the best record in the NFC, allowing just 1.31 sacks per game. So both offensive lines very strong. Both defensive lines, especially in the sacks department for Denver, are very strong as well. And this will definitely be the key to the game. Which offensive line can hold true against which strong defensive line? For the Packers, could be a big game for Micah Parsons. He's hungry for a sack. Couldn't get one on Caleb Williams in their recent win against Chicago. He's looking to grab one there. And for Denver, they had 6 guys on this team with 3 or more sacks. So there are a lot of weapons that are going to be going at Jordan Love. Jordan Love is good against the blitz, but what will happen if Denver can get pressure on Love when they're not even blitzing? That will definitely be something to keep an eye on. We're going to go into the injury report now. This is the last official injury report. Give you a good picture on who could be on the field on Sunday for the Green Bay Packers. Pretty similar injury report to Thursday. Definitely a little bit of shakeup, but we kind of have the guys that are officially listed as out, the guys that'll be questionable, who we will truly have to wait until Sunday. Starting with the players that are out, we start with defensive lineman Brenton Cox Jr. dealing with that groin injury. He had limited practice Wednesday and Thursday. He did have a full practice on Friday, but will still be out for this game. He is coming off that IR. We go to another defensive lineman in Colin Oliver. He was limited practice on all 3 days dealing with that hamstring injury. And the third and final player listed as out as of Friday's injury report, unfortunately, Marshawn Lloyd, who's been dealing with that calf injury. It's been the reason he's been out for this long. He had limited practice on Wednesday and Thursday, but did not practice Friday after he obtained a new hamstring injury. So Marshawn Lloyd, someone that just gets injury after injury, had now just been dealing with the calf injury and now adds a hamstring injury onto that. He is ruled out for Sunday. Just really unfortunate to see. This is a player many Packers fans want to see on the field, and he just keeps getting so close and then pulling himself further away, obtaining new injuries. Really hope he can figure that out soon, because I cannot imagine how frustrating that might be. We go to the questionables. We'll start with a running back after we talk about Lloyd, and Josh Jacobs is questionable for this game, not listed out, not listed 100% good to go. He is questionable with that knee injury. Did not practice on Wednesday and Thursday, but had limited practice on Friday. We go to Lucas Van Ness for the Green Bay Packers, another defensive lineman with a foot injury that he's been dealing with. He was limited practice all 3 days. Wide receiver Savion Williams with a foot injury. He was limited practice all 3 days. And then we go to linebacker Christian Welch, who has been dealing with a concussion, who was also limited in all 3 days. So those are your questionables for Green Bay. Definitely will have to monitor on Sunday specifically who will be in there. Lots of game time decisions we've seen for Green Bay this season. Hopefully we get a clearer picture so we don't have to be holding our breath up until 2 hours before kickoff. But the big one that definitely highlights this whole injury report, Josh Jacobs, that's been the big question mark, got that knee injury, took a game off. Emmanuel Wilson played well in his role. Then Jacobs came back. Now it got re-aggravated against Chicago. You want to be safe with him because you want to have everyone healthy for the playoffs, but you want everyone healthy for the playoff push. So definitely a lot to monitor for the medical team, for the Packers staff, and for Josh Jacobs and crew. Going to get into my final predictions for this game. We've seen the injury report. We've seen possibly where the Packers could attack in the tight end room, but we've seen what this defense for Denver does bring. With my final predictions, as you saw in the previous week, I like to pick a touchdown score, and I like to pick who I think the player of the game for the Packers will be. We're going to start off with the touchdown scorer. I'll go Christian Watson. Maybe it's a little bit basic of a pick with how hot he's been recently, but it's hard to not pick him. I would want to go Jacobs, but if we're uncertain with his status, I'm going to avoid the running back room. I'll go with someone in the receiving department. I will go with Christian Watson, staying hot. Maybe if he has Pat Surtain on him, it's a little bit more difficult of a task, but if Surtain decides to guard someone else, maybe it's a big game for Christian Watson. Player of the game, I got to go Jordan Love. I feel like if the Packers win this, it's going to be big in part of Jordan Love, especially if Jacobs even plays. He's probably not going to be playing at 100%. You're going to really need to rely on the quarterback, and you need to rely on a quarterback who's facing a defense that has 55 sacks on the season and has brought tons of pressure every single game. So those are my final picks. Christian Watson with the touchdown, Jordan Love as the player of the game. I won't give a score prediction. I'll leave that up to you guys. Feel free to comment down below what you think the final score of this game will be. It should be an exciting one. I will not have a video Sunday. We're all going to enjoy watching that game, hoping for a Packers W, but I will return Monday, hopefully with some good news that the Packers improved to 10-3-1, but we'll just have to wait and see. I appreciate you guys tuning in for yet another episode of Packers Latest, and go Pack Go.